What is up, YouTube? It is Coach Kolton here to bring you physique development tools, skills, and opinions that hopefully you can use to get some gains for yourself. Today we are back covering dieting for hypertrophy. Again, in this video we are finally getting to the dark and dirty, the macro distribution, how you're going to distribute your macros throughout the day, meal timing and size. All right, here we go. So why is meal timing important? There's a plethora of reasons, but this is the basics video, sort of, so I'm not going to go in depth here. Some considerations you should make. Meal scheduling is correlated in data with more adherence to diet, as well as enhancing the results you get from the diet, the obtained results. Why is that? Well, it's pretty obvious if you consider, like, hey, if I have meals this time, this time, this time, and this time, you're not gonna like go throughout your day, forget to have a meal, and then like late at night you're just like, oh god, I don't have like enough time, so I'm gonna have to combine all my meals together, and then you're not really hungry for all those meals, and it just kind of goes to waste, right? So if you schedule like, hey, here's my breakfast at this time, usually I eat lunch around this time, my second lunch is at this time, and then dinner around this time. That gives you a very firm kind of grasp of, okay, I know I need to eat here to be hungry for the next meal, and then to be hungry subsequently for that next meal. If I mess up on that, the whole day gets ruined and I'm not even hungry for anything, and I undereat overall. So it's very important for that. Fat can be used more and stored less. What I mean by that is when we eat a large bolus of fat, it gets stored as fat pretty rapidly. When we spread that bolus out over the day in several meals, that fat, instead of being stored so readily, because we have less substrate available to be stored, we're actually oxidizing more of it as our day progresses. As well as it controls blood glucose and improves the synthesis of glycogen. It's way more efficient to spread meals out every 2 to 3 hours as opposed to eating it all in one bolus. That's going to improve the rate at which we put glucose into the muscle. Meal prepping becomes easier if you know, hey, I have this at this time, and you have a busy day. You know exactly how many meals to prep, how many meals to pack. You know exactly what you'll need. The time is set out for you. Your schedule's ahead of time planned. This is being proactive instead of reactive through your day. And then proper meal structures really enhance your sleep, your workouts, and your cognition throughout the day, right? It makes things easier because you're able to time your workout so you can eat this that's going to improve your workout and be ergogenic, as opposed to not aid your workout, or you're going to be super tired once you get to your workout after a long 7-hour day of work or whatever. You can properly plan and schedule ahead of time so that you know when you get to your workout, you're going to have the most benefit possible to leverage performance in the gym. And obviously, like I mentioned, it can help you eat more. If you're planning your meals ahead of time, you know exactly when to eat. You're not going to get to the end of the day and say, shit, I haven't hit my protein for the day or something like that. Obviously, these are dieting basic videos, 101. So if you got this far and you haven't seen those videos, go back. But still, regardless, it does help to kind of consider these things. I want to preface this with, this is a study that I'm going to use for a lot. I have used for a lot of my information handing out to my athletes. In this study, they have conveniently a lot of the studies that I've used, or it's rather a review, I'm sorry. This review has pretty much every study that I've read independently, and then I read this review and I was like, oh shit, I've already read these studies. So it's a really great summation of everything I've kind of read and applied. And they word it very nicely, as well as being kind of contrarian to what most people see in the sort of evidence-based communities in our fitness world here. I really encourage you to read that, because none of this is going to make sense and you're going to be like, dude, you're not a bro, you're a bro scientist, get out of here, you're not using evidence. I am using evidence. I'm just pointing out the obvious mistakes within the evidence that people use and like to hold on to be contrarians. So meal amounts. So technically, yes, you can eat one meal a day and theoretically get results in some capacity. Are the results going to be optimal? Probably not. Can you realistically hit, X amount of protein? In the prior case of this, the 350 grams of protein a day in one meal? Probably not. Will you be recovering at your maximum rate? I'll tell you what, as someone who's an advocate for fasting, I love fasting, not because it's beneficial for athletic populations, but just because I enjoy fasting. It's fun to not eat sometimes. I will note, if I work out and fast and then eat later that night, my recovery is trash and I'm sore the next several days, as opposed to when I do the same workout, same intensity, same weights, I calculate everything, it's all the same. My soreness is non-existent the following day. So indeed, like, eating one meal can work, but recovery, I know for a fact, is going to be impacted, whether studies like to represent that or not. And then how long can muscle protein synthesis from a meal really stay active? Usually we see this lasting from anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, sometimes 2 in studies. So Are you really leveraging the most benefit from your meals as you could if you spread those out throughout the day? As well as not even considering glucose regulation and all of those really important metabolic factors, those are kind of going down the drain. So the gold standard is really somewhere between 4 to 6 meals daily. I'm always erring on the side of 6 meals. You might say that's bro science. Look at the review, look at the literature. Okay, there's a lot of contrarian views out there. I'm just showing you what is used. I'm giving you the truth. I'm showing you what's used in the bodybuilding world. I'm talking about what I've used with athletes, what I use myself, what has been effective. Not what evidence shows in some random study that everyone likes to attach to and claim that they're contrarians and everything everyone's doing is wrong. The gold standard is 6 meals a day if you really look at the literature and examine it. And I'll explain why. But one, this allows you to eat more. Consider this, like, would you drink all of your day's water within a single setting? Like, can you imagine that, drinking a gallon of water in one setting and being okay? Like, feeling okay with that? I certainly wouldn't, because one, prior to that, I would be absolutely parched and dehydrated and literally on the verge of killing myself, right? But once I get the water, now I'm quenched, but I have to drink this gallon of water to make up for all the time I didn't drink. And realistically, am I going to be able to do that without vomiting all over the floor? And probably not. So why am I doing that, right? I could just drink several glasses throughout the day and overall hit my water goal, but still not feel awful about myself and feel good throughout the day. It also provides structure for the training window. It provides constant states of hyperaminoacidemia, which we know spikes muscle protein synthesis. It provides constant insulin signaling, consistent more so. That's good because we don't want huge variances within our blood glucose throughout the day. We want a pretty constant level of it. A chronic kind of background raised insulin is going to be very anti-catabolic, but overall leaning muscle protein balance over to anabolic, as well as you're providing yourself with energy day long, and you're matching the muscle protein synthesis lengths and times, so like 3 to 4 hour windows, as well as the refractory period, which is also 3 to 4 hour windows. Spacing out meals, how does this really work? So meals should be spread out rationally. Think of that first and foremost. Like, how can you do this for yourself and what makes sense for you? That is the biggest key component here. A meal should be had within at least an hour or two of waking. You're very catabolic at that state. Your blood has low glucose. Your insulin is very lowly circulating, and you don't have many amino acids freely floating in your liver even. So during the night, you kind of free up all that energy, use it to fuel your mind, and then you wake up in the morning deprived of all these, so you have to start committing gluconeogenesis, which is taking out amino acids from your body and using them as glucose in the blood, which is losing muscle. We don't want to do that. You're in a highly catabolic state. You need to eat within an hour to 2 hours of waking to prevent that catabolism. Maybe you had breakfast and your training isn't until like 4 or 5 hours later. You're going to want to eat at least an hour prior to training to really leverage performance in the gym. Post-workout meal should be at least within 40 to 60 minutes after the workout to increase anabolism, glycogen synthesis, hydration, and all that jazz. A lot of people, I'm going to stuck on this topic for a little bit, a lot of people talk about how that's nonsense. Muscle protein synthesis is elevated for 24 to 48 hours. There's no anabolic window, all this jazz, and I encourage you to think of one thing here. Studies that question the anabolic window are very flaccid. Like literally, out of like the 23 or so that have been conducted, there's about only 4 that actually look at resistance trained individuals. Okay, consider that. All the data that people are clinging onto and claiming and preaching to this guy that the muscle protein synthesis or the anabolic window is not a thing, are claiming to these studies, and they're not even about resistance trained athletes. Secondly, the resistance trained athletes in those 4 studies are of varied populations. You have people who are old, like elderly, like 60 to 70 years old with type 2 diabetes. You have young individuals, 17 to 18. You have females, you have males, you have different ethnicities and races. There's nothing that's really correlated because there's so much individuality in those studies. They're not representative of the population we're looking at. When you have type 2 diabetics in your study and they resistance train, so you just throw them in there, how is that even correlating to a bodybuilder in any capacity, and why are you using that as evidence to say and validate your opinion? It's just not valid. Lastly, they only tested the workout window alone, as opposed to the rest of the nutrients throughout the day. No one accounted for the diet in any of those participants for the rest of the day. Consider that. They only looked at the post-workout window. That's the only window in which they fed them or didn't feed them. And so if you're telling me that this whole study was based around nutritional intake and timing, but they didn't account for anything but a small meal a day in these 4 studies, are you kidding me? How is this quantifiable in the least? So ignore this. The post-meal window is valid and it has been shown and represented in the data. Please refer you to the review to look at all this and see for yourself. There is benefits to having this post-workout meal, and a lot of it is hormonal, a lot of it is downstream to actual anabolism, but in the end, those events are going to trigger to overall global anabolism. The post-workout window is a time in which you are very catabolic. You have high cortisol, you have high catecholamines, your blood glucose is low, your insulin is low. You are generally catabolic and have a high rate of muscle protein breakdown. But when you ingest food consisting of carbohydrate and protein, you then raise blood glucose, raise insulin, decrease cortisol as a relation to insulin. You decrease catecholamines, especially if you're practicing meditation, as I always preach to my clients after a workout. And you are moving the window from catabolic to anabolic. So if that isn't an anabolic window, I don't know what the hell is. Leave all those scientists behind, quote unquote, that like to put MDs and doctors in front of their names to make them sound educated. And really, they're just trying to be contrarians to get a popular view or a popular opinion or get more business. Notice there's money behind their name, okay? That is the key here. So subsequently, a meal every 3 to 4 hours could really benefit you. However, the literature has shown, honestly, this could be extended past 6 hours or 6 hours to still provide benefit. A meal 2 hours to bed is really good for obviously the amino acids that like L-tyrosine that are going to provide serotonin to the brain and cause relaxation. This meal should be really consistent of nitrogen and void of many carbohydrates, maybe a little bit depending on where you're at in the off season, but try to avoid a large bolus of carbohydrates prior to bed. Meals in total should reach honestly anywhere from 4 to 6 a day. That is the golden standard, and depending on you and your needs, of course, right? If you're a 120-pound soccer mom who isn't really performing at her highest, but that's totally okay for her, you don't need 6 meals a day. But if you're someone who's trying to leverage the best physique possible, you're going to need 6 meals a day, in my opinion. 6 meals a day has been shown, like I had mentioned, to impact cardiometabolic markers significantly, leading to more lean body mass and fat mass within studies, as opposed to groups eating 3 meals a day. And so people will reach out again to all the studies that claim the otherwise, but are those resistant trained athletes? Are those athletes in general? What is the population? Type 2 diabetics? Yes, okay. I encourage you to look at the review. Once again, they elucidate all this information. Very important that you understand that 6 meals a day is going to provide more benefit. It's going to provide more rapid glycogen synthesis. It's going to provide better utilization of fatty acids. It's also going to provide a better leverage. So people will claim, once again, hey, muscle protein synthesis is elevated for 24 to 48 hours after a workout. But really think about that statement. No one accounts for if muscle protein synthesis is elevated for 24 to 48 hours after a workout. Why wouldn't you want to enhance that with multiple feedings? Why wouldn't you want to leverage an extended period and provide more substrate for muscle protein synthesis by eating more in larger bouts of time, right? As opposed to eating 1 time a day or 2 times a day or waiting an hour or 3 hours after a workout. Why not eat more and emphasize that muscle protein synthesis that's priorly elevated, and then subsequently elevate it even more so and provide the substrate needed to build the structural components that you're looking to get out of your hypertrophy session. Common sense here, but it kind of goes amiss when you look at people like Wayne Norton, cough, cough. So macros per meal. This is pretty standard within the literature. I don't think anyone could really argue this. Pre-workout protein usually 0.3 to 0.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. Post-workout generally the same, just a little bit higher protein has been shown to be provided of effect. Usually they quote the study that is 40 grams of whey protein has been shown to have the highest effect of muscle protein synthesis signaling. Otherwise, you're spreading your protein out for your individual weight, which we covered in the video prior, over the day. So out of those 6 meals, you're going to use that amount in the post and pre, but otherwise you're spreading your protein out evenly. Carbs, pre-workout is 0.8 to 2.2 grams per kilogram, and then post-workout is exactly the same. Post-workout is really important because it facilitates blood glucose, cortisol, and substrate supply, as well as catecholamines, which I just mentioned in the last slide. Otherwise, you're going to taper those off further from the workout. So because GLUT4 translocation, or the glucose transporters, are going to be very upregulated after a workout, following a workout, and they will soon drop off. So they'll drop off on what has been shown to be about 2 hours after a exercise. That time is going to be very crucial to where you can actually use more glucose or eat more glycogen, carbs, and that glycogen or those carbs are going to be stored as muscle glycogen very rapidly, and less so promoted to go to fat tissue. So in that window of 2 hours, you're able to eat a little bit more carbohydrate than probably you normally would, because you're storing those differently than if you were to eat those at night. So my point here is you're going to what we call backload carbohydrates, eat the majority of them around your workout, and then as you're leaving the workout window, you're going to taper off. So if you work out in the morning, you eat the largest amount of carbohydrates pre and post workout, and then the rest of the day you're slowly tapering those carbohydrates down. If you work out in the middle of the day, morning is not very high in carbohydrates, night is not very high in carbohydrates, but your meal like probably 3 and 4 are very high in carbohydrates. Same thing with the night, right? You're trying to prioritize muscle growth. I mean, you're waking up, you're eating limited amount of carbohydrates. As you approach your workout, you're eating more and more carbohydrates. Fats should stay furthest away from training. They're going to slow digestion, they're going to cause GI distress depending on when you're working out throughout the day, but also they're going to just slow the utilization of carbohydrates and the digestion of them. So, and if you want the raised insulin, which is going to enhance your workouts and once again performance, you are going to prefer to just have carbohydrates and avoid fats around your workout, as opposed to maybe closer to bedtime and other areas of the day where you're preferentially going to want higher fats in those environments. So that was a lot, and it's probably very controversial, and I do really encourage everyone to look at that review. Go look at the review. It's free. You can open it right now. There's many other reviews that elucidate some of this information, but once again, they're written by contrarians, and you really need to be conscious of this. So in the next video, we're going to cover supplements, what and when. This is very important. We're going to talk about pre, peri, and post-workout supplements. We're going to talk about any sort of other supplements that might leverage performance enhancement, but not the super supplements, okay? No super supplements yet. Unless you want it, comment down below. Anyways, that is it for this video, guys. I'm glad you made it this far. Please, if you really don't enjoy me, let me know down below. Leave a thumbs down even, I don't care. But if you did like this, subscribe, and hopefully you found value enough to click the bell button, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I will see you in the next video. Deuces.